Okay, this thing is working, huh? Okay, great. Greetings, everyone. It's so good to see you all. Thank you for not being at the beach today. You can go later. It's okay. So, gentleness, right? So, gentleness. Gentle, 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 right? That's a concept, right? So, we've been talking about the fruit of the Spirit, and let's see, where's the clicker? Oh, get that. And these fruits of the Spirit, why don't you all help say them with me? We've got love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So we're on gentleness, and these words are always, I love the word study, because we say it and sometimes we have an impression of the word. And you know all those times in school where you try to make it through a test with your impression of the word? But your impression isn't very accurate. You're like, yeah, I can define that. That's, kind of that. So, a lot of these words, as we've gone through them, I've learned so much in my studies. Like patience, there's a lot more to that than we normally think of. And the idea of kindness, this thicker principle of kindness, and then goodness, these were all amazing. And when you say faithfulness or shorten it to faith, you don't think of it as often as like when John brought it, it's like, man, I'm affecting other people in my life. How do I keep that bond sacred with my marriage and with other things? How can I be faithful, So that kind of fruit of the Spirit. So the gentleness concept, that is a similar thing. And maybe even so than most of these words. You just tell someone on the street, be gentle. They're like, okay, well, what's gentle? That's gentle, right? And, okay, sure, that's kind of a rough idea of it, but the way I've discovered in my reading of this is it has much more to do with reaction to the world around us. Okay, the world is doing all kinds of stuff. And the question we're going to ask is, how do you react to the world? And gentleness is the means of reacting to the world that is so different than the world reacts to things. So, let's look at the verse from Galatians. This is the guiding verse, of course. And there's the list, and we come to gentleness. And when we come to that word, then you do the word study. And you say, well, first of all, how well was it translated? In this case, this was written in Greek. Ancient Greek was the language. And so somebody took the word, a word in Greek there. John could tell us how to pronounce it. I don't know, blah, blah. It's some kind of Greek word, and they translated it. But depending on your version of the Bible, there's a different translation of the word. There are 3 translations of that Greek word that appear predominantly. One is gentleness. Then if you go back to some of the older translations, they called it meekness. Okay? And then sometimes it's translated humility. And so, what I was saying about the word gentleness being hard to understand? Well, meekness is even worse. So that was taken out by modern translations. And you get the word gentleness in there. And meekness, as I say there, humana, I'm supposed to be meek. And So then that got me more confused. Am I really, because, you know, didn't God create me not to be a meek person? If I understand meekness, I don't know. Should I change my whole personality? I was reading, we were watching a documentary about Theodore Roosevelt. It was said that when anyone met with Theodore Roosevelt, they had to wring out their clothes because of the excess of personality that they would get on themselves. So he was such a big personality. So it was God saying to Theodore Roosevelt, yeah, just tone it down and just be meek. See, I'm not saying that. I don't think that's the right idea here. So, what is gentleness not? Okay, maybe it's easier to approach what it is not. And we're going to be talking about reaction to the world. So we've got the freeways up top and center, right? So I have a coworker who it's actually kind of fun yet scary to drive with him because he will look perfectly calm and he'll having a discussion with you, but there's something in his mind that's just waiting for the first person to cut him off. He's ready because he explodes like a complete volcano and struggles to get the window down fast enough so he can scream and flip the bird and everything. And he's just been waiting all day for anything to happen. He just has an instant trigger. And it's amazing. And then that will pass in like 30 seconds. And it's okay, what were we discussing? How do you do that? So that's not gentleness. So that's clear that those reactions, that's not a gentle reaction. And you have the lady on the bottom left, you know, shaking her finger at you. You know, that's not a gentle reaction. So I'm going to say, first of all, let's simplify it. Being gentle is a corollary to the rule, don't be stupid and don't be mean. Okay? So God tells us, don't be a jerk. Okay? And so gentleness is a little bit of a fancy way of saying that when people treat you one way, do not come out guns blazing. That's the wrong idea. But it's a little nuanced approach, so it's a way to not be a jerk. So we've got what it's not now. And then one of my favorite sayings was from Matt Raines. He introduced this concept to us. He said, be a thermostat, not a thermometer. And I was telling a lady at the grocery store that the other day, because we were just talking about faith and stuff, and I was like, yeah, this is a way to think about it. She said, that's so cool. The idea is a thermostat, sure, it knows what the temperature is, but then it changes the temperature in the room. So, you know, things start getting hot in the room, the thermostat gets things to cool down again. See, that's what you want to be like. I really do, at my core. It's like I feel then I've got a mission from God. If I can go someplace and make the place better, where people are not as angry and are not as upset. See, then I'm being a thermostat. I'm helping adjust the temperature in the room. I love that concept. If you're a thermometer, you simply are reflective of what's in the room. So going back to the freeway example, other people cut you off, well, I'm going to tell everyone that it's a problem. See, you're just announcing the condition of being on the freeway. And actually, you don't need anybody telling them that. Everyone knows the freeway is a difficult place. You need to be a thermostat on the freeway, which is to drive in a manner that makes things kind of pleasant for people, where they're enjoying themselves and they're driving and all that. And you can do that by the way you drive. Oh, come on in, come on, let you in, you know, that kind of stuff. It just changes everybody's attitude. So, be a thermostat, not a thermometer. So, 2 Timothy chapter 2, here's our first verse. And this is one that illustrates this side of gentleness really well. And I know I put them small on the screen. That's to try to force you to open your Bible. See, so this is the appropriate time. You can open your Bible. But I'll read these out anyway. 2 Timothy 2. It says, don't have anything to do with foolish and stupid arguments. I love that. Because you know they produce quarrels. And the Lord's servant must not be quarrelsome, but must be kind to everyone, able to teach, not resentful. Opponents must be gently instructed in the hope that God will grant them repentance, leading them to a knowledge of the truth, and that they will come to their senses and escape from the trap of the devil, who has taken them captive to do his will. Hey, so there's the word, and this is the same Greek word as appeared. Opponents must be gently instructed. So you see the situation. You have an opponent. The scripture is positing that you're in a situation in life where someone is adversarial toward you. So what do? Sure, you can talk to them. It doesn't say, please be a doormat. Okay? It says, instruct them, but gently. See how this is fitting together? So gentleness is not meekness in the sense that, oh, just don't say anything, just go cry in your room later. You interact in a gentle manner. Okay, so that's the objective. And I didn't say this is easy, because sometimes if you interact with someone, it doesn't quite go well, even though it means to, right? So it may not make them calm down. But we're talking about what you do. That's the point of this, okay? How do you react? So that's cool. It says there's good reason for you to gently instruct, to help them out, so that they realize, maybe I'm not acting the right way. Now, you're not fixing them. You're just being a positive influence on them. Let me put it that way. This is the thermostat idea. You're changing the temperature a little.
Amen.
So, gentleness. Let's look at the synonyms a little bit. There's courteousness and politeness. And think about that for a minute. That is in reaction to someone. When I say you're being courteous, that's your reaction to someone. So see how that fits in? Someone yells at you, then you're courteous. You're polite, right? Also, it can be a synonym, mild in disposition or behavior. And I think that's kind of like the meekness flavor. But here's what I want you to think of. It means that when you talk to someone back, you're not screaming at them. See, you're talking in a kind tone, and that's the gentleness, right? Saying, well, let's talk about this for a minute. I think of Abraham Lincoln as another example. There's a scene from the movie Lincoln, which came out a few years ago. I love the scene. It's where they're assembled in the war room in the White House. And he's got to make some huge decision that thousands of lives will be on the line for. And he sits for a minute and says, well, let me tell you a story. And all the generals said, oh no, one of his stories again. But the point was, he was gentle. Now, do you think of Lincoln, one who said, let's send the Union troops in, as not being willing to use strength? No, he was very strong. But see, he talked to people, he was gentle with them, he gave people time to listen and understand. His tone of voice was gentle at the same time as being very, very strong. And it was shocking to people that our gentleness should actually be shocking. It's like there's some power in that person that is extraordinary, but it comes out in such a smooth manner. They're not going to lay down, but they're going to be gentle about it. See, it's really cool. It's a picture. I'm like, yeah, that's who I want to be. We have the words kind and tender. One is that you see fits right in. Freedom from harshness or violence. See, your reaction is just not the screaming out reaction. That's for sure, if you're gentle. So here's what it said. I like this particular quote from the Oxford English Dictionary. He is full of gentleness and flows on silently like a river of oil. Imagine a river of oil, how it's just gently going down, but it doesn't mean weak, right? Barnes Notes, that's a biblical commentary, says, patience in the reception of injuries. That's what gentleness is. So you receive injuries, and then you are patient back in how you react. That is gentleness. It is neither meanness or a surrender of our rights, nor cowardice, but it is the opposite of sudden anger, malice, and long-harbored vengeance. You see that distinction? We're not cowards. That's definitely not the case. But when we explain things to people, they're going to be soothed by our words rather than exacerbate the feelings already. Although they get to choose. If they want to ramp it up, let them do it. But you are mellowing out the situation. So, the natural world. I love the natural world. And think of the Mississippi River. See, look at that picture right next to St. Louis on the top left. The river looks gentle, but it's the mightiest river in America. The power behind it is enormous, but it's gently flowing toward the sea. You look at the wind, and there's such energy in the wind. Mankind's been doing that more, putting windmills, right? You capture the energy. We can power our homes and our businesses. There's power there, but you can have it gentle and still have all that power in it. And even, going further, this is something you might not think about often, a gentle river of lava. Like you step into that thing, you'll be dissolved. But it's gentle, it's purposeful, it's not out of control, that particular river of lava. It's a fallacy of the world that you can have a lot of energy in you and you have to let it out or it'll explode someday. No, you can be controlled and have that energy just keep flowing through everything you do. That's fine. You're not going to explode. God says you're not going to. You don't need to. With my Spirit, there's no exploding. There's power, but no explosion. So, you are not called to have a lack of power, purpose, or strength, but you're going to have a calm, controlled execution of your purpose day to day. And remember what your purpose is: to love people, to help people. You're powerfully going into the world and you're going to be of service to the world, make it a better place. I mean, that's an awesome calling. And with that power of God, we're going to do it gently. You think of Nathan who's going out now in to do a big task, right? But that task is so cool and God-given in that there's people you haven't even met yet that you're going to be able to help, encourage, strengthen. You are a river of lava, this strength that's gentle and kind, but powerful. So you don't have to doubt your power, and you don't have to doubt your ability to remain gentle, no matter what happens. So, that's what God has promised us. So now I've got two examples of gentleness. Jesus is the number one example. Always turn to him to see how should we live our lives. So he's the ultimate example. He's strong, purposeful, and gentle. One scene was in John chapter 18 when after he's arrested and he's on trial. And it says, the high priest questioned Jesus and about his disciples and his teaching. So Jesus, here's him talking to the people who are putting him on trial. He says, I have spoken openly to the world. I always taught in synagogues or at the temple where all the Jews come together. I said nothing in secret. See, I'm powerful. I'm out there. Why question me? Ask those who heard me. Surely they know what I said. It says this trial is silly. I've never been secretive. Ask anybody. But they didn't like that answer, Jesus. When Jesus said this, one of the officials nearby slapped him in the face at his trial. They just reached over and slapped him for just saying, I've never put anything in hiding. And they said to Jesus, is this the way you answer the high priest? And here's Jesus' gentle reply. If I said something wrong, testify as to what is wrong. What did I say that was wrong? Okay. But if I spoke the truth, why did you strike me? Then Annas sent him bound to Caiaphas the high priest. See, he's not a doormat. He said, are you guys paying? You just slapped me. And do you realize if what I said is true, you have no reason to do that. But he does not take vengeance on it. He did not scream this out. He said it in a kind way. See, that's gentleness right there. He was met with violence and he responded gently. Just like it said, he instructed them in a gentle manner. Whether or not it solves their problems. They went on to kill him, right? So it may not make your adversaries all the good people you want them to be. But the point is that you are responding gently to the events around you. Since Jesus is such a good example. In Isaiah, it explained his gentleness and what it's like. And this is for all of us. It says, a bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldering wick he will not snuff out. In faithfulness he will bring forth justice. So first of all, you see the strength, that he has justice. But if he sees us all almost broken, right? Like we are sometimes in our lives, right? Like, oh, I'm really messed up. I'm on the verge of completely losing it. He looks at us and says, no, we're going to tape that thing back together around, puts a little duct tape around us, puts a little water around us. You're going to be okay. See, that's gentleness in action. So he treats us that way. So when we see broken people, and by the way, mean people are broken people, right? So if they're a broken person, do you just finish snapping it off? Or do you gently say, let me help you out with that, son? Oh man, you're going through rough times. I'm so sorry. I know you want to feel peace. Yeah, I do. Okay, and you just gently talk to people. So you're not saying that's the right way to act, but you acknowledge people's brokenness and pain, because we've all felt it. And that's the point. So then we have Jesus right before his arrest. So I'm going to go back in time a little. And I put a little map up there. That's the eastern Mediterranean. There's Jerusalem. And you have the Dead Sea to the bottom middle. And Jerusalem is just near the Dead Sea, a little bit west of there. So Jesus is about to be arrested. And he's near Jerusalem. And here's the story. While Jesus was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd armed with swords and clubs, sent from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. The one I kiss is the man, arrest him. Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. That's the signal. Arrest this guy. Jesus replied, "Do what you came for, friend," talking to Judas. Then the men stepped forward, seized Jesus, and arrested him. With that, one of Jesus' companions reached for his sword, drew it out, and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Jesus said to his buddy with the sword, he said, "Put your sword back in its place. For all who draw the sword will die by the sword. Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must happen this way?" In that hour, Jesus said to the crowd, "Am I leading a rebellion that you have come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I sat in the temple courts teaching, and you disciples deserted and fled." And he's hauled off to the trial we read about. So this is such an interesting scene. This is not the reaction of a normal person being arrested. You realize that? They come and arrest him, and his buddy is like, "Let's stop him." And Jesus first tells his buddy, "You know what, this has got to be. There might be a time for that, but this is definitely not the time. I'm supposed to be arrested." But here's the remarkable thing. It's exactly like the other scene we just read. He still tells the people arresting him, "You know, you folks are ridiculous. You're coming out here in the middle of the night. You could have arrested me any day. It basically shows you people are cowards." You realize that's what Jesus is saying to them? You had to come in the middle of the night because you thought it wouldn't attract as much attention. So Jesus calls them out, but he's not violent. He doesn't scream at them, says, "Let's go. This is the way it's supposed to be. I'm in control here. I'm going with you." So that's powerful, but the gentleness is how he reacts. Not subserviating his rights, expressing his rights, but still, it's okay. This is the way it's going to be. Now we're going to move on to Paul. Paul was interesting because you can say about Jesus, well, of course Jesus was good. He's God. How is he not going to do everything right? The question we have, are all of us sitting in the chairs today able to react gently? Because you might say, well, Paul never had to drive in the freeway in LA. If you put Paul on the 405, I guarantee it would be a different story. Okay? So the question is, can we act this way? And that's the point of this whole series. By miraculous power, the Spirit of God enables us to have love, joy, peace, faith, all of this. It's a transformation. Say, I signed up for that. I was baptized into the Spirit so that He can empower me to have this. So you of course, you have to desire to have the attributes. Say, I want to be powerful yet gentle. I want to be loving. I want all of that. And I don't think I'll do it on my own. So you say that to Jesus, and He says, let me fill you with my Spirit. I'll breathe on you and empower you to do that in a miraculous way. So the reason I mention it is now, you may say, give me proof. Oh, the first proof I give you is the people sitting around you. See, this is a sacred space. You realize that, right? When we're together, things go better. It's not just an accident that we're not all biting each other, yelling at each other all the time. We really do have the Spirit helping us act better. You know, with the folks who just came back from Mexico, I bet it was another just Spirit-filled week, right? Where things were just, the Spirit is exhibited all week, right? And everyone's just getting along and having fun and working hard, right? It's power and strength and all of that the entire week. It's remarkable. So Paul, some people looked at Paul and said, Paul never yells and screams. He's pathetic. You know, some people really were saying that Paul's not forceful enough. And so in 2 Corinthians, Paul defends himself and explains how he acts to people. It says, by the humility and gentleness of Christ, I appeal to you. I, Paul, who am timid when face to face with you, but bold toward you when away. In other words, he was reacting to their assertion that, well, you say a lot of stuff in your writings, but you're just so soft-spoken to us, you must just be timid or something. Something's wrong with you. So he's defending himself. He says, I beg you that when I come, I may not have to be as bold as I expect to be towards some people who think that we live by the standards of this world. For though we live in the world, we do not wage war as the world does. This is it. I don't come back at you with a sword. You stab me, that's not the way I act. I don't wage war in that way. He says, I'm bold, but that's not how I wage war. The weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power. Remember, I just mentioned this miraculous aspect of the Spirit. That's exactly what Paul is talking about. They have divine power to demolish strongholds. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. Said, you don't understand. We're going to keep instructing you and instructing you. It's true. We don't yell and scream, but we're going to keep talking to you, and we're going to keep helping you in a gentle manner. Do not confuse that for meekness or mildness in that sense. So it's controlled strength like a mighty river that is not out of control. That's what Paul is saying. The last story I want to convey is Paul in Philippi. We're going to move all the way up into Greece, the northern Mediterranean. And here it says, once when Paul and his friends were going to the place of prayer, we were met by a female slave who had a spirit by which she predicted the future. She earned a great deal of money for her owners by fortune telling. She followed Paul and the rest of us, shouting, "These men are servants of the Most High God who are telling you the way to be saved." So, let me skip ahead to the end of the story. Paul healed her of that fortune-telling issue. They arrested Paul because the owners of that slave girl had made money off of it. So they arrested Paul, for no real reason at all, right? And then it says, the crowd joined in the attack against Paul and Silas, and the magistrates ordered them to be stripped and beaten with rods. It's like, what did they do? After they had been severely flogged, they were thrown into prison, and the jailer was commanded to guard them carefully. When he received these orders, he put them in the inner cell and fastened their feet in the stocks. About midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the other prisoners were listening to them. Okay, I'm going to fast forward a little bit. That's a gentle reaction, see? They weren't yelling and screaming in the prison, hey, it's unfair. However, you skip ahead to the end of this particular story, and it says, when it was daylight, the magistrates sent their officers to the jailer with the order, release these men. The jailer told Paul, the magistrates have ordered that you and Silas be released. Now you can leave. Go in peace. So just get this in your mind. Would this go well in America currently, that you don't do anything obviously wrong? They beat you and put you in prison, and the next morning they say, it's okay, you can go. So that's what they did to Paul. And so here's Paul's reaction. Paul said to the officers, hey, they beat us publicly without a trial, even though we are Roman citizens, and threw us into prison. And now do they want to get rid of us quietly? No. Let them come themselves and escort us out of prison. The officers reported this to the magistrates, and when they heard that Paul and Silas were Roman citizens, they were alarmed. They came to appease them and escorted them from the prison, requesting them to leave the city. After Paul and Silas came out of the prison, they went to Lydia's house, where they met with the brothers and sisters and encouraged them. Then they left. Okay, I really want you to understand this story is a great example of gentleness, because they did not yell and scream. It was the opposite. In prison, they were singing. They ended up converting the jailer. There's all this other good stuff surrounding it. They were gentle, but they still had a wrong against them, and they said, look, these people, we want to talk to these people. That wasn't right at all. They talked to them, the people apologized, said, okay, we're on our way now. So you're not laying down and becoming just a doormat, but you're not reacting the way the world does, where you come out with guns blazing. You see the difference? That is the definition of gentleness. So say, that's it. Strong, but polite and kind and all of that. That's really such a neat combination. So we're going to skip that one and go to the summary now. Remember, gentleness is not timidity or weakness. So next time you read this, I don't want you to go through this and say, oh, be weak. No. I want you, whenever you get to gentleness, think powerful. Think, yes, powerful and just so controlled. You know, like when you tell a little kid, don't take your fist and crush the flour. You've got to control your strength, right? See, you have strength, but you're controlling it. You have to have strength and purpose, and gentleness guides that strength and purpose. It's a reaction. So, in other words, gentleness is a little bit different than we think of. This is in reaction to other people. It's a subtlety I didn't realize when we're talking about gentleness. And don't be mean, don't be stupid, be gentle and strong. That's the concept here. So I know it's going to be a great week for all of us here. because we have been infused with the Spirit of God Himself. And we're going to make a difference in people's lives. We have, what, 150 or something of us here, and we're each going to touch at least 10 people. So we have like 1,500 people in the world where the world will get that much nicer. Well, the temperature in this hot week will come down that much more, right? Because of our gentleness. It's going to be really awesome. So let's sing. And if you have any prayer needs, come on up at this time. But this church is always for you.
Let's stand. You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness. You